Right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Brian Chamberlain. We all want to feel safe from harm and abuse that may be inflicted upon us, do we not? Private ownership of guns in developing countries has been shown to decrease the crime rate, so gun control is a good thing. It provides for safety. Private citizens, to begin with, use guns primarily for defense of their property and themselves. Back in the American West, if you did not have a gun, you were extremely vulnerable to being robbed or killed. So every citizen carried a gun, man and woman, even some children did. There is no law that will 100% abolish the guns in the country, but we can deter crime by allowing more guns to be in control of the people. An example of this was reported by the News Sentinel on January 23, 2009, in which said, around 2:30 p.m., convicted felon Donald N. Jones entered Belmont Beverage in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Security tapes showed Jones walking around the counter and firing a gun, hitting the leg of an employee before robbing 2 registers. When Jones moved back to the other side of the counter, another clerk, having already seen his co-worker get shot, drew his gun and fired at Jones, killing him. The armed citizen was a right to carry permit holder. The right to carry permit holder is someone who is allowed by the state to carry a weapon on them at all times. Jones had a violent past involving a string of at least 9 armed robberies that he confessed to committing in 2000. One of the places Jones admitted robbing in the 2000 was Belmont Beverage. The wounded employee is expected to make a full recovery. A survey in 1994 reported that 14 million civilians carried firearms on their person, and a 1998 survey concluded that 46% of Americans use guns primarily for defense. Furthermore, restricting private ownership of guns would increase the crime rate. Criminals get their guns through theft or other illegal means. They do not go through legal channels, such as applying and buying them through state systems. The NSPOF, or National Survey of Private Ownership of Firearms, estimates nearly 500,000 guns are stolen per year from households, and 32% of felons stole their guns before using them. Most guns are acquired through illicit markets, brought in through our borders on Mexico and Canada. Private gun ownership is high, and crime is at its current lowest. The U.S. FBI states that 76% of crimes dropped to 60.7% in 2007, and the statistics started in 1960. Robbery went from 37.4% in 1960 to 31.6% in 2007. There are currently about 270 million firearms in the U.S. alone. Countries with low amounts of firearms in private possessions have higher crime rates than those of highly concentrated firearms. Don Cates and Gary Mauser write, "We are able to put together figures for 9 European nations that have more than 15,000 firearms owned per 100,000 households. And we also had 9 European nations that had less than 5,000 firearms per 100,000 households. What we found was the first group with a triple rate of gun ownership had 1/3 the homicide rate of the second group. In the 1960s and early 70s, the gunless Soviet Union murder rates paralleled or generally exceeded those of gun-ridden Americans. While American rates stabilized and then steeply declined, however, Russian murder rates, increased so drastically that by the early 1990s, the Russian rate was 3 times higher than that of the United States. Between 1998 and 2004, Russian murder rates were nearly 4 times higher than the American. We see much of the same thing in Luxembourg, where handguns were completely banned. Criminals use assault rifles and high-caliber rifles in their assaults, also wearing body armor and having much illegal ammunition, such as armor-piercing bullets. In Los Angeles, as I'm sure you all have heard of it, February 28, 1997, 2 armed robbers had a shootout with emptying 1,100 rounds into the police cars and civilians. They had automatic weapons with much larger clips than they were supposed to. The weapons they included were HK-91, Type 56, AK-47s, AR-15s. So they get illegal weapons any way they can. So guns in the hands of the people improves the safety of the community and is what this great country was founded upon.